Hey guys, tonight we're following a fruit. Not a warrior, not a queen, just a spiky, golden fruit. The pineapple. But don't underestimate it. This unassuming tropical treat has traveled oceans, charmed monarchs, sparked wars of flavor, and become both a luxury item and a pizza punchline. And tonight, you're coming with it. We begin in a jungle. You're surrounded by tangled green, the kind of damp, hot air that makes your shirt stick to your back and your thoughts slow to a crawl. Birds chirp unseen. Somewhere off to your left, something large splashes, maybe a tapir, maybe something with more teeth. And beneath your feet, pineapple plants. Low, spiky clusters, stiff leaves reaching up like they're mid-complaint. It doesn't look farmed. It looks found. These are the lowland forests of South America, where what we now call the pineapple began its journey. You crouch beside a plant. The fruit is smaller than the grocery store giant you're used to. Rougher. The crown looks like a punk haircut gone right. You touch it, expecting the firm waxiness of a supermarket pineapple, but it's softer fragrant. It smells like sugar and sunburn. The locals don't call it pineapple. Of course, the Guarani people call it nanas, meaning fragrance. Which makes sense, because it smells, well, delicious. Like fruit salad without the salad. A woman shows you how to slice it open with a curved obsidian knife. She hands you a roasted wedge on a skewer. The outside is caramelized, but the inside is still juicy. The taste hits like a sunrise, sweet, sharp, but weirdly soothing. You realize they don't eat these every day. They're too valuable. Not currency, exactly, but close. The pineapple is ceremonial. A peace offering. A prize for hunters. Maybe even a gift for a traveling visitor like you. Though you get the sense they're still watching to make sure you don't eat it wrong. Historians still argue whether indigenous communities cultivated pineapples methodically or just nurtured wild clusters where they grew best. There's evidence of selective planting, maybe even organized plots, though those don't look like the neat fields you'd see centuries later. Instead, they're blended into the forest itself, tucked along riverbanks or open glades, near useful medicinal plants and shade trees. You wipe your hands on your thighs and look up. Somewhere beyond the trees lies another village, and another, and another. Pineapples will travel there too, passed from group to group, root to root. They won't stay here. The Guarani are known for their extensive trade networks, jungle routes that crisscross the continent long before European maps existed. They'll carry pineapples along with pottery, salt, feathers, and storytelling songs. The fruit isn't just eaten, it's introduced. Shared like a secret, planted like a whisper. You take another bite, and juice runs down your wrist. And yes, you probably wouldn't survive this forest on your own. The ants are suspiciously organized. The snakes wear better camouflage than you ever will. And whatever just called out from the trees sounds like a bird that's seen things. But here, tonight, you're safe. Your hands are sticky. The air is thick, and your senses are just sharp enough to follow this fruit's trail. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop your city and local time in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand. The pineapple's path is waiting. The Guarani traders are already packing baskets woven from vines, filled with forest fruit, spices, and tiny carved charms. You're going with them next. You've barely had time to finish licking your fingers clean when the baskets are hoisted onto shoulders, and the Guarani traders begin moving. No horns, no announcements. They simply go, as if they always know which way to melt into the forest. You follow behind, stepping carefully between knotted roots and hanging vines. The forest here is a mix of green shadow and shifting light, and every so often, the sound of the baskets creaking and fruit shifting is the only reminder that this is a caravan, not a mirage. They walk barefoot. You try, but immediately regret it. One root stabbed to the heel later. You sheepishly pull your sandals back on and accept that you were never built for jungle travel. The baskets carry a mix of goods, some recognizable, like peppers, corn, and clay pots, others less so. One man's pack jingles softly with seed pods used for musical ceremonies. Another woman's load includes a single large pineapple, nestled in moss like it's a baby, which in a way it is. A precious thing, both edible and symbol. This is a route known well to these traders, part of a larger network across the vast forests of South America. They're not wandering, they're connecting. Some paths lead northward toward the Orinoco River Basin. Others veer west, toward the mountains. You're on a trail that will, eventually, bring the pineapple to what is now northern South America and Central America. And though there are no maps in anyone's hand, the forest is mapped in memory, in landmarks, in stories, and where the sun rises through the trees on a given day. At a rest stop near a slow-moving river, you squat beside a young boy who pulls out a peeled strip of pineapple skin, dried and folded into a kind of chewy treat. He grins at you with yellow teeth and offers a bite. It's tangy, tough, a little smoky, like it was dried over coals. Pineapple jerky. Historians still argue whether this kind of preserved pineapple was common or just a treat for travelers. It would make sense. The fruit, when dried or roasted, keeps longer. And in this climate, anything perishable needs to be clever to survive. What's clear is that the pineapple travels with people, not away from them. It's not just spreading by accident, like wind-blown seeds. It's being carried. That's a very different kind of journey. You stop in a village built along the riverbank, where the traders unpack their goods and the community gathers to greet them. There's music, flutes, hand drums, soft chants, and laughter as children run up to poke at the baskets and shout about which fruit is their favorite. Pineapples are placed in a circle with other tropical offerings, cacao pods, gourds of honey water, even a curled-up armadillo waiting to become dinner. It's a casual exchange, but the pineapple gets attention. People touch it reverently, sniff it, joke about whose turn it is to share a slice. Here, the fruit's not just food. It's a messenger. It carries the story of the forest behind it, the people who grew it, the journey it took to arrive. Later that evening, you sit beside a woman weaving a basket from strips of palm, and she explains, through gestures and a few shared words, how they plant pineapples along trail edges. So the path feeds you next time, she says, tapping her forehead. Clever, very clever, and very human. A crop that grows slowly, doesn't need much water, and practically dares animals to steal it with those sharp, blade-like leaves. It's ideal for semi-nomadic communities who revisit the same trails again and again. You can leave a few behind, and in a year or two, pick your snack mid-journey. Even more intriguing, archaeologists have uncovered fragments of ancient pottery with pineapple-like motifs and residues that suggest the fruit may have been fermented into mildly alcoholic beverages, sort of a prehistoric pineapple wine. You imagine sipping something like that around a smoky fire, watching the stars shift overhead through the jungle canopy. The traders stay for 2 nights. Then, like a river's current changing, they begin to move again. You pack your few borrowed belongings into a palm leaf pouch and follow the caravan northward, where the jungle starts to thin. New languages emerge. The food changes. You're offered grilled plantains, mashed cassava, tamales wrapped in leaves. And always, always, there's a pineapple in someone's bag. Your feet are sore, and you've stopped pretending you're keeping pace. But it's worth it, because what you're witnessing isn't just trade. It's the quiet, methodical expansion of a fruit into legend. A fruit that walks, piece by piece, from one world to another. Eventually, these routes will take the pineapple up toward Central America, where the Maya will meet it, where it will be woven into their markets and offerings. Some even speculated reached as far as southern Mexico before the Spanish ever set foot in the Americas. But that's still ahead of you. Tonight, the traders build a simple camp under the stars. Someone starts humming. You lie back on a blanket of woven reeds. A half-sliced pineapple sits beside you, soaking up moonlight. Morning mist curls low across the river as you wake, the kind of mist that makes trees look like ghosts and turns your hair into a sponge. The traders are already moving again, but something in the air feels different today. You're not following a forest trail now. You're following history cracking open. Because not far from here, across this same ocean, over that same horizon, sails a ship carrying a man who is about to discover pineapples the way most people discover things, by pointing at them and saying, "What's that?" As if it's new. The year is 1493. You're now aboard the La Nina, Christopher Columbus's second voyage to the New World. The sea is brisk, the wind relentless, and the men smell like they've been trapped in a wooden box with salted fish for months, which they have. Columbus stands at the rail, squinting at the horizon. He's already decided this is Asia, more or less, and nothing you say will convince him otherwise. But what he will admit is that the plants, the people, and especially the food here, are different. You come ashore in Guadeloupe. It's lush. Pine forests mingle with palms. There are unfamiliar birds overhead, and the beach is so white it hurts your eyes. But it's the fruit that really steals the show. As the crew pokes around a recently abandoned Taino village, they find something strange. A stack of golden, spiky fruit set carefully outside a communal hut. Pineapples. To the Taino, this isn't a forgotten grocery bag. It's a welcome. The Spanish sailors don't know that, though. They just pick them up, sniff them, and eventually take a bite, because of course they do. The reaction is universal. Raised eyebrows, wide eyes, and probably a joyful Madre Mia. The pineapples are loaded onto the ship. These will be Columbus's proof of this new land's abundance. An edible trophy for Queen Isabella. When the Nina returns to Spain, the pineapple is presented at court with great ceremony, like it's a visiting dignitary from the land of juice and glory. The queen tastes it and is immediately impressed. The texture is strange. The flavor is a revelation. One pineapple. That's all it takes to start the craze. Historians still argue whether this was truly Europe's first encounter with the pineapple. Some suggest earlier contact via Moorish trade or North African intermediaries. But this moment, this royal tasting, is what puts pineapples on the European stage. And suddenly, everyone wants one. There's just one small problem. Pineapples do not grow in Europe. At least, not without a fight. You watch as noble families across Spain, Portugal, and soon the Netherlands and England begin trying, and failing, to grow them. The plants wither in cold soil, collapse under frost, and generally refuse to cooperate with the gray, damp reality of a European climate. But that doesn't stop anyone. You attend an early experiment in Seville where gardeners fuss over a makeshift tropical greenhouse, a drafty glass shack, really, where a single pineapple plant is being serenaded with flute music. Does it help? Hard to say. Then in Holland, progress. A few hardy growers, flush with wealth from overseas trade, build elaborate greenhouses powered by coal heat. They manage to coax the plant into fruiting. Slowly, painfully slowly, like 2 years per pineapple. And just like that, the fruit becomes gold with spikes. A miracle in your dining room. A botanical luxury. A dessert you don't eat, because why would you ruin something so rare by chewing it? You walk into a noble home in London where the butler leads you to the dining hall, not to eat, but to see. There, on a silver pedestal, is a pineapple. Guests gather around, murmuring. It will not be served. It's there to be admired, like a Faberge egg, only juicier. One hostess leans in to whisper that she's rented hers for the evening from a local grocer. 10 shillings just to borrow a pineapple. And yes, she has to return it uneaten. You attend a banquet where a pineapple is balanced on top of a roast peacock. The peacock is also decorative. No one eats either of them. It's like a culinary museum. And in portraits, pineapples begin to appear on side tables and in still life arrangements. Painters use them to say, "This family is worldly, wealthy, and has a private furnace large enough to grow tropical fruit in Yorkshire." It's pineapple propaganda, and it works. The fruit's name in English, pineapple, comes from its resemblance to pine cones, which were known in Old English as pine apples long before this tropical cousin arrived. You imagine the confusion when someone brought what they thought was a giant spiny apple into a room and promptly bit into it expecting cider flavors. Miscalculations aside, the pineapple begins its steady climb as Europe's most glamorous fruit, but its roots remain where you first found them, deep in the forests of South America, passed hand to hand, from tribe to village, and now, unknowingly, into royal dining halls. The fruit has crossed the sea, but it hasn't reached its peak yet. Next, it will take root in empire. You rub the condensation from a frost-rimmed window and peer into a greenhouse, no, a pinery, as they're now called in 17th century Europe. Inside, the air is humid, steamy, and perfumed with warm soil and something sharper, the green, sour tang of growing pineapple. Rows of stubby plants line long stone beds, their leaves stiff as swords. One plant in the center of the room bears a single squat fruit on a thick stalk, looking more like a magical gourd than anything you'd find sliced on a summer platter. Two gardeners, dressed in full waistcoats, naturally, debate how many weeks until it's ripe enough to show off at the Countess's next supper. You step into the warmth. The door hisses behind you like a secret being sealed. This is England, 1688. Outside drizzle. Inside paradise. Or something trying very hard to be. Welcome to the era of the rented pineapple. By now, pineapples have become less a food and more a status flex. Growing one isn't just about having exotic taste. It's about having enough disposable wealth to burn coal nonstop, to glass your walls, and to hire an entire staff of sweaty men to whisper encouragement to a fruit for 24 months. And if you can't grow one, no problem. You can rent one. Yes, actual pineapple rentals. You don't get to eat it. You don't even touch it. You just display it at your party like a floral centerpiece with better PR. It sits there, glowing faintly under candlelight, while guests murmur in admiration and pretend they haven't seen it at 3 other parties this month. Historians still debate whether this trend started in the Netherlands or England. Both had the wealth, the vanity, and the coal. But by the early 1700s, renting pineapples for social gatherings had become a common enough practice that even London newspapers ran pineapple availability listings. You attend a wedding where the groom's boutonniere is shaped like a tiny pineapple. The cake has one perched on top like a crown. The bride holds a pineapple in her portrait instead of a bouquet. Practical? No. Symbolic? Very. Because pineapples are more than fruit now. They're identity. You're not just wealthy. You're cosmopolitan. You've tasted the new world, or at least looked at it very closely across a velvet rope. Even architecture gets in on the craze. You visit a Scottish estate where the garden pavilion is topped with a massive stone pineapple dome, painstakingly carved to resemble the fruit, down to the twist of its crown. Birds nest in the crevices. No one questions it. And yet, for all the fuss, you still rarely see anyone eating pineapples. Why? Because even when they ripen, they're too precious to serve. One fruit represents years of labor, tons of coal, and a deeply invested ego. You nibble it and suddenly it's gone. And what if the guests don't even like the taste? What if the fruit has that off tinny tang that underripe pineapples sometimes do? So they're preserved, painted, pickled in vinegar for display, placed in bowls where they gradually rot while being adored. Still, a few brave households do serve them. You're invited to an elite banquet where, at the climax of the evening, footmen bring out platters of peeled, sliced pineapple arranged like golden petals. The crowd gasps. One elderly woman faints. A man across from you weeps openly as he eats a slice. It's not just the sweetness, it's the sensation of touching the edge of the world with your tongue, of tasting sunshine from a place you've never been. But with every bite, one thing becomes clear. Pineapples have outgrown their roots. You think back to that Guarani village, to fruit traded under moonlight and eaten while sitting barefoot on the ground. Here, the fruit is no longer a humble offering, it's a social currency, a talking point, a glorified centerpiece that only occasionally dares to be dessert. In France, Louis XV demands one for his royal garden. His horticulturalists scramble. In the Netherlands, Dutch botanists write treatises on optimal pineapple airflow. In Russia, Peter the Great is gifted one and promptly commissions a portrait of himself holding it. Shirtless, it's a choice. Meanwhile, across the ocean, the pineapple story is twisting again. In the Caribbean, it's no longer a rarity. It's a crop, and it's about to be caught up in something far darker than fruit envy. But here, in the warmth of the greenhouse, you sit and watch the gardeners check soil temperatures, adjust glass panes, and whisper to a fruit that doesn't know how famous it's become. A pineapple glows faintly in the lamplight. It is ripe. It is royal. It is completely unaware of its own absurdity. And like all fashion trends, it's on the edge of reinvention. The air changes as you step off the greenhouse threshold. No more cold-warm fog or aristocratic perfume. Just sun. Humid. Hard sun that presses down like it's trying to flatten the very ground beneath your feet. You're in the Caribbean now. Sugarcane waves in the wind like a golden tide, rustling and sighing under the weight of centuries. And somewhere between those tall, swaying stalks, you spot the unmistakable silhouette of a pineapple, shorter, spikier, stubbornly out of step with everything else. Welcome to the colonial plantation. The year is somewhere in the early 1700s, though time moves differently here. Faster for some, slower for others. You hear the creak of a wooden cart, the metallic hiss of a machete slicing cane, and the deep, dull thud of something falling into the soil. Pineapples grow here in strange contradiction. They're tropical, yes, hardy, tough, but they're not the main event. Sugar is king. Pineapples are side players, ornamental, supplemental, and yet oddly symbolic. You crouch beside a row of them, growing on the plantation edge. Unlike the cane, which is crowded and regimented, pineapples are more aloof, spaced out, sunbathing like they own the place. You hear a planter speaking with his overseer. The pineapples, he explains, aren't for export. They're for show, for gifts, for hospitality, and for guests. Plantation owners often serve them to visiting officials or wealthy traders, presenting them with the same reverence Europeans once used for peacocks or gold leaf pudding. A whole pineapple on your table here isn't just food. It's colonial branding. But the labor that surrounds you tells another story. Slavery powers this paradise. Every sweet mouthful has a bitter aftertaste. Enslaved Africans and indigenous peoples plant, harvest, and carry the pineapples, but they rarely get to eat them. You watch as a young boy slices one for a planter's family, placing the pieces neatly on pewter plates before slipping the skin and scraps into a pocket when no one's watching. Historians still argue whether pineapples were deliberately kept from enslaved people as a form of control or whether access varied by region and crop yield. What's not up for debate? The contrast between who grows the fruit and who consumes it is as sharp as its skin. But pineapples don't just stay on the plantation. They travel. From the Caribbean, they're loaded onto ships bound for Europe, not as fresh fruit, which spoils too quickly, but as pickles, jams, and preserved slices packed in rum. British sailors develop a taste for them. You watch a ship's cook stir chunks of pineapple into a pot of salted pork and dried beans. The sweetness cuts the salt. It almost tastes like home. If your home also smells like bilge water and cannon smoke, the pineapples also move inland, into colonial homes, into gardens run by the wealthy, into recipe books filled with British puddings and French glazes, even into West African stews, adapted by the people who had no choice in their voyage here, but still found ways to shape survival into flavor. At a market in Port Royal, Jamaica, you see pineapples stacked in pyramids beside spices and strange bottled tonics. A woman offers you a taste, pineapple grilled and dipped in cayenne. It burns, and then it soothes. A contradiction, like everything here. And yet, in the same breath, pineapples also appear on plantation crests and decorative tiles. You attend a dinner where the host's silverware is stamped with pineapple motifs. His wine glasses, pineapple stemware. His napkins, embroidered with little golden fruits. The table is a propaganda campaign, and the pineapple is doing the heavy lifting. This is where things get tricky, because while pineapples still carry that aura of hospitality, of welcome and wealth, their presence here is tangled with a system that is anything but welcoming. They've become a tool of image, colonial optics, tropical abundance, with none of the blood in the soil. You drift through a kitchen where enslaved cooks are preparing pineapple chutney to serve with roast duck. The air is thick with ginger, vinegar, and the sharp, sweet sting of caramelizing fruit. One cook hums under her breath. Another glances toward the door, always listening. The recipe will be praised. The hands that made it, forgotten. And yet, the pineapple doesn't seem to care. It grows where it's planted. It survives heat, neglect, drought, and even the indifferent glances of empire. You pass a missionary school where a hand-drawn map of the world includes a pineapple icon next to West Indies. It's simplified, cartoonish, but in some small way, accurate. The fruit is part of this region's identity now. Sticky, sweet, and complicated. In a shady grove behind a chapel, you find a few pineapples growing half-wild, tucked into sandy soil. No neat rows, no silver trays, just fruit. Free range, you might say. You sit beside them as the sun dips low. The sky turns mango pink. Somewhere, a parrot screeches obscenities it's learned from sailors. You take a deep breath. The pineapple's global journey is just beginning. Soon it will head east. But tonight, in the warmth of this Caribbean dusk, you can almost hear the soil sigh. You wake to the smell of salt air and fire-roasted breadfruit. Gone are the wide Caribbean cane fields. Now you stand on black sand, the Pacific at your feet, and behind you, terraced slopes of volcanic earth stretching toward lush green peaks. You're in Polynesia, Hawaii to be exact. This is not the land of Dole pineapples. Not yet. This is centuries earlier, long before America claims this island chain as its 50th state, before corporations stamp the landscape with labels and shipping codes. What you find instead are ancient stone footpaths, low-walled gardens, and communities that live by rhythm. The rhythm of tides, of stars, of fruit ripening in the sun. And yes, pineapples. You walk a narrow path flanked by ferns and hibiscus until you find them, not in massive fields, but in quiet corners, wedged between rocks, tucked into garden edges, planted near taro patches like shy cousins at a family gathering. Pineapples are not native to Hawaii. The first ones likely arrived in the early 1500s, not with colonists, but possibly with Polynesian voyagers. Historians still argue about this. Some say the Spanish introduced them. Others insist that Polynesian seafarers brought the fruit from South America across the Pacific, using stars, swells, and pure daring to navigate. If true, it would mean the pineapple had already traveled thousands of miles before Europeans even realized it existed. You like the second version better. You squat near an older woman tending her garden. Her hands are stained from pounding taro, but she waves you over to see her fruit. The pineapple here is smaller, but its crown stands tall, defiant as always. She slices it open with a shark-toothed blade, offers you a wedge. You bite in. It's sharper than the Caribbean ones, more acidic, but sweeter in a way that's hard to explain. Like sugar laced with salt air. You lick the juice off your wrist and smile. In Hawaiian, the pineapple will come to be called halakahiki, foreign hala, a reference to its resemblance to the hala fruit, which locals had known for generations. It's not seen as strange or exotic. It's adopted, integrated, absorbed into island life like a new psalm. You move through a coastal village where pineapples hang in hand-woven nets from rafters, kept cool in the sea breeze. Children race through the sand with sticky fingers, and elders sit on mats weaving stories into the wind. No one's trying to impress anyone with a pineapple centerpiece. It's not a party trick or a borrowed fruit. It's just food. But things begin to shift. You step forward in time to the 1800s. The missionaries have arrived, wearing wool in tropical weather, fanning themselves with hymn books. With them comes Christianity, education, Western medicine, and agriculture, scaled up. The pineapple, once content in corners, begins to spread again. This time, not by wandering gardeners or sailing Polynesians, but by business-minded men with pocket watches and imported seeds. Hawaiian royalty, like Queen Kahimanu and later King Kalakaua, view Western tools and crops with mixed feelings. Pineapples become one more element in a growing tug-of-war between traditional systems and economic modernization. You walk through experimental gardens, sponsored by missionaries. Pineapples grow in neat rows now, mapped and cataloged like specimens in a living lab. Someone makes note of which varieties ship best, bruise least, ripen slowest. You see early labels: smooth Kian, red Spanish, Queen. The fruit is becoming a product. But it isn't all foreign hands planting pineapples. Native Hawaiians adopt the crop too, blending it with island knowledge. You hear a chant about fruit ripening at moonrise. You watch a fisherman use dried pineapple skin as bait. In a quiet act of defiance, a young woman carves a pineapple into her calabash bowl. The fruit is becoming Hawaiian, even as outsiders tighten their grip. And the world, as always, is hungry. Europe wants more. America wants faster. Industry wants bigger. You pause beside a man on a rocky bluff, staring out over fields that weren't there a generation ago. He shakes his head. Used to be callow here, he says, meaning taro. Now it's all for cans. He's not wrong, because just over the horizon, an empire of tin, steam, and factory-label pineapples is forming. The kind you'll find in every lunchbox, every dessert table, every upside-down cake from Boston to Brisbane. But before we get there, before the brands and the monoculture and the pineapple plantations that erase whole forests, you stand here, one last time, in the in-between. The volcanic soil is warm beneath your feet. A rooster crows somewhere behind you. A pineapple waits in your palm, its skin still marked by the island sun. It won't be like this again. You smell the factory before you see it. Sweet, metallic, and oddly clinical, the scent of fruit and machine, sugar and steam, hope and capitalism in a cocktail you can't quite place. Welcome to 1901. You're standing just outside Wahiawa, on the island of Oahu, Hawaii. The fields here roll out like a green tide, and at their center stands a neat little wooden building with a bold name on the door, Hawaiian Pineapple Company. Inside, a wiry young man with round spectacles and a tie too tight for this heat is making notes in a leather-bound journal. His name is James Dole. He's 23. He is, to put it mildly, very enthusiastic about pineapples. James Dole didn't invent the fruit. He didn't even discover a new way to grow it. What he did, what he's doing right now, is scale it, industrialize it, make it something the average mainland family can pick up at a grocer for 15 cents and never think twice about. You walk through the first test fields with him. Rows and rows of spiky plants stretch as far as you can see, each one a clone of the last. No decorative pineapples here, no heirloom varieties or quirky shapes. These are smooth Chian pineapples, chosen for yield, shippability, and just enough sugar to satisfy a sweet tooth in Ohio. Inside the factory, you step into a different kind of heat. Wet, metallic, relentless. Women and men, many of them recent immigrants from Japan, China, the Philippines, and Portugal, work assembly lines that snake through the building like mechanical intestines. One group slices, another cores, another packs golden rings into cans, which hiss and seal and roll down the line with factory rhythm. There's little time to talk, just the chink-chink-chink of knives and the low groan of conveyor belts. Dole's vision is clear, pineapple for the masses. No more elite fruit for nobles and lords. Now it's pineapple upside-down cake in a Detroit kitchen, pineapple fritters at a Minnesota state fair, pineapple jam on white bread in Missouri. And it's working. Dole starts advertising aggressively. You see it on posters, in cookbooks, on radio jingles. By Hawaiian. Pure sunshine in a can. Golden fruit for golden families. There's a pineapple recipe for everything now. Salads, meats, desserts, breakfast. Historians still debate whether Dole's empire uplifted Hawaii's economy or helped tighten the colonial grip on it. There's truth on both sides. While the success brought jobs and infrastructure, it also consolidated land, reshaped agriculture, and tilted power away from native Hawaiian systems. You ride a narrow-gauge train past fields where pineapples stretch in every direction, their crowns like little armies. Workers harvest under the sun, moving fast, spines scratching their arms. There's no shade, no breeze, just fruit, sweat, and quotas. You find a quiet corner where a worker named Anna peels a pineapple with the speed of someone who's done it 10,000 times. She offers you a slice. It's warm, fragrant, and still oddly intimate, a gesture that cuts through the noise. But even Anna knows her job's tied to a clock. Pineapples here aren't nurtured. They're processed. You step into the Dole Cannery in Honolulu, opened in 1927, one of the largest in the world. It covers 19 acres and handles 1.5 million cans of pineapple per day. You can't even smell the fruit anymore. Just steel, steam, efficiency. There's a Dole promotional booklet handed out to housewives across America. Inside, pastel illustrations of happy children, smiling pineapples, and tidy homes that always seem freshly mopped. The booklet tells you that a mother who serves pineapple is modern, stylish, and caring. You raise an eyebrow. Even the fruit has gender roles now. By the 1930s, James Dole is known as the Pineapple King. He's built a company town, created an industry, and helped crown Hawaii as the pineapple capital of the world. He also bankrupts himself once or twice in the process, but history mostly glosses over that. You walk through the manicured lawns of his estate, where a single pineapple sits on a pedestal in the garden. It's symbolic, of course. His empire no longer depends on growing pineapples himself, but on managing them, branding them, exporting the idea of them. Because here's the twist. Hawaii didn't stay the top producer forever. Other countries will rise. Other plantations will boom. But James Dole locked in the pineapple's image. He made it an American fruit, despite its South American roots, Polynesian detours, and Caribbean interludes. And yet, in all this hustle, something remains. You duck into a break room, where workers sit with packed lunches, rice, pickled vegetables, boiled eggs, and yes, pineapple slices. Canned, sweet, a little metallic, but somehow still comforting. You close your eyes. Let the sound of the factory fade. Somewhere, deep beneath all the branding, the slogans, the recipes, you still hear the whisper of a fruit that once grew wild in a jungle, passed between hands as an offering. You exhale slowly. The pineapple's been crowned, packaged, and sold, but its journey's not over. It's the 1950s now, and you're standing in a living room that smells like ham, hairspray, and ambition. You're in post-war America. A woman in cat-eye glasses smiles at you from behind a mid-century sideboard. She's hosting a tropical supper, and she gestures proudly toward the centerpiece, a glistening pineapple ham, studded with cloves and ringed with syrupy canned fruit. On the wall behind her is a bamboo clock. A plastic lei hangs from the coat rack. Someone turns on a record player. The dulcet tones of a faux Hawaiian steel guitar fill the room. Welcome to the next evolution of the pineapple, from empire to escapism. America has entered its tiki phase. This isn't Hawaii, of course. Not really. But it's an idea of Hawaii, built from coconut shell drinkware and travel posters that promise exotic dreams without ever having to leave the suburbs. And the pineapple. It's now the edible passport. You sip a Technicolor cocktail, something called a Hawaiian Hummer, served in a ceramic tiki mug with a wedge of pineapple perched on top, like a jaunty hat. It's garishly sweet and unapologetically cheerful, like a sugar rush in a loud shirt. You walk into the dining room, where the hostess unveils a pineapple upside-down cake, its top glistening with concentric rings and maraschino cherries. It looks like stained glass. A circle of guests lean in as if witnessing a sacred rite. The fruit that once took years to grow in coal-fired greenhouses is now available at your corner store. It's democratized, domesticated, and oddly sticky. Historians still argue whether this era marked the true peak of pineapple obsession or the beginning of its descent into kitsch. Some see it as a cultural celebration, others as a convenient symbol of how quickly colonial goods were rebranded as consumer novelties. You step outside into a backyard lit with paper lanterns. The grill sizzles. A father flips skewers of pineapple and pork while telling his neighbor how he almost went to Hawaii on his honeymoon but settled for Florida. He pats the cooler next to him. Inside, cans of pineapple juice and Jell-O molds waiting to be unmolded with a slap. What you're witnessing isn't just dinner. It's identity performance. America wants leisure. America wants flavor. But more than anything, America wants a story. And the pineapple, ever the eager participant, obliges. You visit a grocery store where entire end caps are dedicated to pineapple recipes. Cookbooks offer pineapple casseroles, pineapple meatloaf, pineapple gelatin towers shaped like castles. You stare at a magazine cover that boldly suggests, surprise your husband with a pineapple turkey loaf. You're not sure he'll like that surprise. By now, Dole and other producers have refined the process to near mechanical perfection. Pineapples are harvested by machines, sorted, sliced, and sealed in cans with eerie efficiency. The label has changed, but the ambition hasn't. Make it cheap, make it sweet, make it everywhere. Meanwhile, the real Hawaii, The islands, the people, the culture exist in parallel. You ride a tourist bus through fields where actual pineapples still grow under the real sun. A guide explains the fruit's history through a loudspeaker. He gets some of it wrong, some of it right, but he's trying. You stop at a roadside stand where an auntie cuts you a fresh chunk of local pineapple, still warm from the sun. It's miles away from the syrupy rings of the canned variety. Brighter, earthier. You take a bite and feel a little tug in your chest, because somehow the fruit still carries echoes of the places it's passed through. It still has layers. In a Honolulu diner, you see a pineapple on a hamburger. In a Las Vegas chapel, a pineapple-shaped neon sign blinks over the entrance. In a suburban basement, someone adds pineapple to their cheese fondue and insists it's continental. And in a quiet moment, you realize something. The pineapple is now more idea than ingredient. It stands for hospitality, for tropicalness, for the dream of somewhere else, sweeter and sunnier than wherever you currently are, even if it's been processed, packaged, and cartooned beyond recognition. You return to the living room, where the party's winding down. Paper plates are crumpled. Toothpicks lie abandoned. Someone's kid is asleep on the shag rug, clutching a chunk of pineapple like a trophy. You step outside. The night is cool. You look up. The stars are sharp tonight. Somewhere far away, a pineapple is still growing in volcanic soil. But here, under a plastic flamingo and a polyester sky, it has been reborn. You wake in a fluorescent-lit aisle. The hum of refrigeration buzzes gently above your head. Everything is too clean, too symmetrical, too sterile. You're in a modern grocery store now, 2020's era. And the pineapple, it's waiting for you near the avocados, stacked into polite pyramids on a slick display stand labeled Tropical Delights, $2.99 each. Just like that, the journey comes full circle. You reach out and pick one up. It's heavy in your hand. Not absurdly so, but heavier than it looks. The crown is prickly but trimmed. The label is branded with a cheery font and a green check mark. Responsibly grown. A few feet away, another pineapple lies chopped into tidy rings, sealed in a plastic tub beside pre-cut mango and coconut chunks that definitely aren't coconut. You pause. This fruit, once a symbol of prestige, once hauled across oceans, once the centerpiece of royal feasts and rented dinner parties, has now become just another Tuesday night ingredient. But its history isn't done. Not even close. Because now, pineapples are everywhere. They're in smoothies, in tacos, on controversial pizzas that spark flame wars on the internet. Historians still argue whether putting pineapple on pizza is culinary genius or blasphemy. You don't pick a side. You're just here for the ride. You scroll through your phone while leaning on the cart. There's a TikTok trend involving grilled pineapple. Someone's teaching AI to recognize pineapple ripeness by crown wiggle. Another video shows someone tattooing a pineapple with a koi fish for some reason. Even in emojis, the pineapple persists, golden, green-topped, weirdly glossy. You send it to a friend as shorthand for vacation. Let's get drinks, or just something silly and sweet. But behind all this is an invisible web of labor, ethics, and climate. You zoom out. You're in Costa Rica now, source of over 80% of the pineapple sold in U.S. supermarkets. The plantations stretch in endless grids, each one monitored by drones and data. Machines hum. Workers move fast. Too fast. You pass a man on a break, sipping water under a tarp. He wipes his brow and nods at the pineapple you're holding. Good one, he says. You ask if he eats them often. He laughs. Not really, he replies. Can't afford the fancy ones. And there it is again, the fruit of hospitality, still being served, just not always to the people growing it. Pineapple production today is a balancing act. High demand, tight margins, heavy chemical use, and pressure to keep prices low. Certifications like Fair Trade and Rainforest Alliance try to soften the impact, but the issues run deep. The land pays a price, too. Pineapple farming can drain soil nutrients, contaminate water with pesticides, and drive out biodiversity. Activists in the Philippines, Costa Rica, and Ghana voice concerns. But consumers, mostly, just want juicy rings and clean labels. Yet still, in the middle of this machinery, you find pockets of joy. You visit a community garden in Mexico where pineapples grow beside marigolds and tomatoes. A woman teaches school children how to turn the crown into a new plant. She calls it fruit that remembers. You watch a street vendor in Bangkok carving a pineapple into a spiral flower in under 60 seconds. She dusts it with chili sugar, hands it to you on a stick. You take a bite. It stings. It sings. You grin. And in Ghana, where the fruit has been grown for over a century, a young entrepreneur is starting an all-natural juice business using pineapples rejected by export companies. Ugly ones still taste good, he says, handing you a bottle. It does. The pineapple hasn't lost its meaning. It's just added more meanings. In modern design, the pineapple still represents welcome. You see it on doormats, throw pillows, resort logos, and even luxury towels at overpriced hotels. It's been flattened into an icon, but somehow not erased. At a wedding, you watch a bride walk beneath an arch of stylized pineapples, part tradition, part irony. Her grandmother remembers when the fruit was too expensive to eat. Her nephew will grow up thinking it always came pre-sliced in plastic wrap. And yet, there's one last thing to remember. You can still grow a pineapple. Cut off the crown. Dry it. Stick it in soil. Water it slowly. Be patient, very patient. In about 2 years, it might give you one fruit. One strange, spiny, golden miracle of a fruit. Just like it used to, centuries ago. In the heart of a jungle. No machines. No drones. Just time. You hold the pineapple tighter as you return to the grocery aisle. The buzz of fluorescent lights fades. The fruit warms in your hand. For just a moment, you swear it still carries the stories of every place it's been. From jungle trail to royal table. From island soil to canned cake. From empire to emoji. And still it endures. The pineapple sits quietly on your countertop now, haloed in soft afternoon light. It's not doing anything, just existing. But somehow, that feels like enough. Because today, it isn't just fruit. It's decor. It's symbolism. It's a lifestyle meme. And in this latest chapter, the pineapple has become both retro and relevant. You scroll through an online boutique. There it is again. Pineapple wallpaper, pineapple lamp bases, pineapple-shaped charcuterie boards. There's even a gold pineapple ice bucket that costs more than your first car. You stare at it. You don't need it. You still kind of want it. Meanwhile, somewhere on a beach in Florida, a group of retirees play shuffleboard in pineapple print polos. One of them points to the fruit on his shirt and says, "That's me. Sweet but spiky." The others groan. The pineapple has settled comfortably into the kitsch phase of its journey. But kitsch is never just about silliness. It's about memory, familiarity, safety. Pineapples make people feel at ease, even if they're sitting in a dentist's waiting room staring at pineapple-themed motivational posters. You visit an Airbnb with pineapple-shaped keychains and "Live, Laugh, Pineapple" stenciled on the wall in cursive font. The kitchen smells like coconut-scented dish soap and optimism. And then there's the other symbolism. You're browsing a message board where someone asks, "Wait, does having a pineapple on your porch mean something?" The comments spiral. Is it hospitality? A vacation home? A code for swinging? One person just says, "It's fruit, bro." Another posts a pineapple emoji, followed by 5 winking faces. Historians still argue where the pineapple equals swinger myth began. Some trace it to cruise ship lore. Others to southern hospitality, gone slightly off-book. Regardless, the pineapple now exists in that rare cultural space where it's wholesome and a little bit scandalous, depending on the angle. But beyond the jokes, the pineapple continues to evolve with food culture. You flip through a trendy cookbook. Grilled pineapple over quinoa. Pineapple kimchi. Pineapple glazed tofu. Pineapple-infused mezcal. The fruit is now global fusion on a fork, South American roots, Asian technique, Instagram-ready plating. You attend a pop-up supper club in Berlin, where the chef serves pineapple 3 ways: pickled, bruleed, and smoked. Guests nod solemnly as they taste. Someone uses the phrase "flavor journey," unironically. You smile. The pineapple's still performing. But not everything is glossy. You read an article about climate change and how it's affecting tropical crops. Pineapples, while hardy, are starting to feel the pressure. Erratic rainfall, shifting growing zones, unpredictable pests. Some scientists are experimenting with hybrids. Others are studying the old ways. Drought-tolerant cultivars grown without chemicals. You visit a farm in the Philippines where the workers use compost teas and natural mulch instead of pesticides. A woman in a wide-brimmed hat explains how her grandmother used to wrap young pineapples in banana leaves to protect them from the sun. It worked then. It works now. You help harvest a row. The fruit is shorter than the supermarket kind, squat, slightly uneven. But when she cuts it open, the scent punches you with brightness. You take a bite. It's not just sweet. It's sharp, alive, electric. You remember something a historian once said. Pineapples are never neutral. They carry every hand that has touched them. And it's true. In this single fruit is the imprint of so many histories. Indigenous farmers and enslaved workers. European kings and Hawaiian queens. Factory laborers and suburban bakers. Instagram chefs and sustainability advocates. You walk through a weekend market in Sao Paulo where pineapples are sold with chili salt and lime. A little girl runs up, grabs a slice, laughs with her mouth full. Her father peels another one, expertly, for muscle memory. You realize he's not just cutting fruit, he's passing on ritual. That's the thing. The pineapple has lasted because it transforms. From garden to greenhouse, from colonial export to canned staple, from elite luxury to backyard barbecue guest star. It never stays in one lane. You sit on a bench and watch the world blur past. Someone walks by in pineapple-patterned leggings. Another sips pineapple kombucha. A child plays with a plush pineapple toy. The fruit remains. Changed. Constant. Cheerful. Complicated. You look down at your hands. Sticky from juice. You don't mind. Because even now, after all this, the pineapple hasn't reached its final form. You're walking backward through time again, just a bit, into an unexpected place for pineapples. The pages of medieval and early modern cookbooks. Now, you might be wondering, how did a tropical fruit from South America end up in the recipes of European nobles who barely had sugar, let alone refrigeration? Excellent question. Let's unpack it together. Picture this, a 17th century banquet hall in France. Velvet curtains, gilded plates, entire roast animals parading down the table like some kind of edible procession. And right in the center, a pineapple. Not to eat, necessarily. Just to look at. You see, back in this era, before dole, before plantations, before suburban cookbooks, pineapples were rarer than gold in Europe. A single fresh pineapple shipped from the Caribbean could cost more than a year's wages. Most people never saw one. So when it did appear at a banquet, it wasn't dessert, it was a flex. In fact, some nobles and merchants would rent pineapples for events. That's right, fruit rentals. They display one on a table for a party, then return it to the importer for someone else to rent the next night. It's basically the medieval version of leasing a luxury car for Instagram photos. You walk past a pastry kitchen in a London estate where the chef is fretting. His employer wants a pineapple centerpiece, but all they have is a wax replica painted with egg yolk and saffron to simulate the real thing. You reach out. It's surprisingly convincing. Real pineapples, when they did make it into kitchens, were used sparingly. Recipes from the 1600s describe pineapple preserves soaked in brandy, or served with cold game meats in elaborate sweet and savory dishes. It wasn't until sugar became more widely available that pineapple was even palatable to most European tongues. You sit beside a cook flipping through a worn notebook of recipes. She pauses on one titled, A Pineapple Tart for the Kinge. It calls for stewed pineapple, almond cream, rosewater, and a crust made of flour, lard, and patience. Lots of patience. You can almost smell it baking, sweet, perfumed, rich. Historians still debate whether these recipes were aspirational, written by cooks who hoped to someday work with pineapples, or based on actual experience. Some argue they were invented from hearsay. Others insist they reflect a rare but real tradition of elite European pineapple dining. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, artists were painting pineapples into still lives alongside oysters, goblets, and dead birds. These weren't just pretty pictures, they were status symbols. The pineapple's presence said, "Look how worldly we are. Look what our colonies can provide." Even scientific minds were obsessed. You stroll into a botanical lecture in 18th century London, where a group of men in powdered wigs are discussing the Ananas comosus with the reverence usually reserved for unicorns or volcanoes. One man holds up a pineapple crown like a relic. Another sketches it with exaggerated spikes. They're trying to understand it, catalog it, tame it. Later, you find a greenhouse in the Scottish Highlands where gardeners are attempting to grow pineapples using coal-fired stoves and glass domes. The temperature is barely above freezing outside, but inside, it's a manufactured tropical bubble. And it works, sort of. Eventually, these hothouses, or pineries, become all the rage in upper-class circles. You pass one owned by a baronet who proudly gives tours to guests, making them admire the rows of slightly shriveled but technically alive pineapple plants. When one finally bears fruit, he throws a garden party. The pineapple is placed on a silver tray. No one touches it. It's too valuable, too beautiful. By now, the fruit's journey through Europe isn't just about flavor. It's about symbolism. The pineapple begins to appear on heraldry, architecture, and ceramics. Churches carve it into altar rails. Door knockers are cast in its shape. One noblewoman even commissions a wig in the shape of a pineapple. You try not to stare. You wander into a Venetian ballroom where pineapples adorn the wallpaper and hang from crystal chandeliers. It's decadent. It's absurd. It's pineapple maximalism. And yet, despite all the fanfare, most Europeans still hadn't tasted one. They'd only seen paintings, porcelain, or the occasional shriveled import. For many, the pineapple remained more myth than fruit, until shipping improved, until plantations boomed, until canned fruit flooded the market. But for a few odd centuries, the pineapple was a unicorn with leaves, a status object, a conversation piece, a fruit that no one quite knew what to do with, but everyone wanted to be near. You return to the cook's bench. She's trimming a pear into the shape of a pineapple. It's an illusion, a dream of sweetness, borrowed from a place most of her peers will never see. You take a bite. It's not pineapple, but it's close enough for now. You arrive in West Africa beneath a burning sun and the rustle of dry leaves. The air smells of charcoal fires and overripe mangoes. And yes, pineapples. You're in Ghana, sometime in the mid-20th century, just as independence movements are gaining momentum across the continent. The pineapple is not new here. It arrived centuries earlier, carried over by Portuguese traders, missionaries, and wandering botanists who couldn't resist experimenting with tropical crops. But unlike in Europe, where pineapples were once glasshouse divas, here they found home, warm soil, sun year-round, and farmers with patience. You stand at the edge of a small village field. Rows of pineapple plants stretch before you, spiky crowns rising like green fireworks from the earth. The variety here is not the smooth cayenne that Dole made famous, but sugarloaf, paler, softer, and famously sweet. It bruises easily. It doesn't travel well, but eaten fresh, it's unmatched. A boy hands you a slice. No fork, no plate, just juice running down your wrist. You lick it off instinctively and close your eyes. It's pure, golden, sunlit candy. Here, the pineapple isn't a symbol or a centerpiece. It's part of daily life. You see it sold in bustling open-air markets by women balancing trays on their heads. You spot it beside cassava at roadside stalls, sliced into spirals and dusted with chili. It's tossed into stews, juiced for breakfast, given to children as treats. Historians still argue over whether pineapples became a significant crop here on their own terms, or whether they were pushed into prominence by post-colonial export economies. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in the overlap. In the 1980s, as European demand for tropical fruit surges, Ghana sees a chance to cash in. Pineapple becomes an economic strategy. You walk through a co-op meeting where farmers discuss planting cycles, export quotas, and the delicate art of harvesting a pineapple at just the right stage. Not too green, not too ripe. Timing, it turns out, is everything. You follow the fruit's path, from field to packing house. There, workers trim and box pineapples for shipment to France, the UK, Germany. It's a logistical ballet, choreographed for freshness. Speed is king. But there's tension too. Some farmers resent the pressure to standardize. The best-tasting pineapples often don't fit in the boxes. Too fat, too golden, too authentic. Europe wants yellow, not gold. One man mutters, holding a perfect fruit that's destined to be rejected. You know it. It happens everywhere. Yet others see opportunity. You meet a young entrepreneur named Alma, who started her own small processing facility. She makes juice, dried pineapple rings, even pineapple jam spiced with cloves and ginger. Why should we only sell the fruit whole? She asks. Why not finish it here too? Her branding is modern, her packaging biodegradable. She's savvy. She's hopeful. You step into a local kitchen where grandmothers are weaving pineapple into family recipes, served with jollof rice, grilled chicken, coconut sauce. The fruit isn't exotic here. It's comfort. And just as you settle into the rhythm, the scene shifts. You're now in Togo, then Benin, then Nigeria. West Africa as a whole is humming with pineapple life. Each region with its own cultivars, practices, flavors. In some places, the fruit plays a role in healing rituals. In others, it's believed to aid digestion or boost fertility. You watch an herbalist pound pineapple core into a tonic, mixing it with herbs and rainwater collected in a clay pot. She hands you a sip. It's sour, but strangely grounding. Pineapples have even found their way into language. In one Ghanaian proverb, a woman tells her daughter, "Don't judge the sweetness of a pineapple by its crown." You smile. You've seen that truth across continents. Back on the road, you pass a field where a farmer is planting new crowns by hand. Each one a promise, each one a future. He moves with unhurried certainty, as if to say, the world can spin fast, but fruit still takes time. You glance back at the truck behind you, stacked high with pineapples headed for port. Then forward at a roadside vendor peeling one with a rusted knife, handing it to a child barefoot in red dust. And in that moment, the pineapple is both global commodity and local joy. Income and inheritance. Pride and pressure. You take another bite. It's warm from the sun. Juicy. A little overripe. Perfect. You're drifting now through the blurred lines between food, faith, and folklore, where the pineapple takes on meanings beyond taste, sometimes sacred, sometimes silly, always symbolic. You find yourself in the courtyard of a colonial-era church in the Philippines. The stone is weathered, the arch is grand, and carved along the balustrade, repeated like a quiet chant, are pineapples. At first, it seems out of place, but it's not. Here, in the Visayas region, pineapples have been woven, literally and metaphorically, into the cultural fabric for centuries. Spanish colonizers introduced the fruit, but the local people did something unexpected. They turned its fibers into thread. Yes, welcome to piña cloth. You watch as a weaver sits cross-legged on a bamboo mat, gently pulling strands from the inner pineapple leaves. It's a delicate process, slow, meditative, hypnotic. She spins the fibers between her fingers, then threads them into a loom. The resulting fabric is so fine, it looks like fog made solid. Historians still debate whether piña was a practical adaptation to local materials or a quietly defiant act, turning a colonial import into something uniquely Filipino. Either way, piña cloth soon adorned saints' robes, wedding gowns, and political garments. Even today, high-end designers prize it for its airy beauty and heritage. You run your hand across a finished piece. It's sheer, pale gold, and faintly prickly, just like the fruit itself. But pineapples appear in other spiritual spaces too. In parts of the Caribbean, you visit an Obia healer's hut, where pineapple juice is used to cleanse energy and sweeten one's luck. The healer crushes it by hand, mixes it with crushed herbs, and anoints your palms. It draws in what you're ready for, she says with a wink. Later, in Brazil, during a candomblé ritual, you observe pineapple offered at an altar as part of a food ritual honoring Oxum, the elixir of love and fresh waters. The fruit, yellow and sweet, is said to please her. You feel the weight of this fruit's journey, not just across geography, but belief. In West Africa again, You listen as a griot tells stories beneath the mango tree. He pauses to reference a time when pineapples whispered secrets to the soil and could only be harvested by those with clean hearts. The children giggle. The adults nod solemnly. You wonder how many fruits get that kind of folklore treatment. Then, something stranger. You stumble into urban legend territory. In a corner of American internet folklore, someone insists that pineapples once symbolized safe passage through a haunted house, left at the doorstep like garlic for vampires. You raise a skeptical eyebrow. No one can quite verify it, but it sounds like the kind of myth the internet loves. Plausible, cozy, vaguely spooky. You scroll farther. In Victorian England, you learn pineapples once adorned funeral spreads. Their sweetness was seen as symbolic of eternal hospitality, welcoming the departed into the afterlife. You picture a silver platter next to a portrait in black ribbon, the fruit sitting heavy with unsaid goodbyes. Then you're in a modern American tattoo parlor. The client is getting a pineapple inked on their forearm. When asked why, they say, "It reminds me of my grandmother's house." That's it. That's the meaning. Not religion, not folklore, just a memory of warmth, juice, and laughter on summer afternoons. You notice something then. The pineapple symbolism is endlessly flexible. It fits whatever shape we need it to. A peace offering, a joke, a charm, a thread in fabric, a prayer in fruit form, a welcome mat in edible disguise. It's not accidental. The fruit's physical traits lend themselves to metaphor. Its armored exterior, sweet interior, vibrant crown. You don't need a degree in literature to see the story. Hard on the outside, soft on the inside. Regal, yet approachable. A little ridiculous, yet deeply beloved. Back in the Philippines, the weaver finishes her day. She folds the cloth, places it in a wooden box, and says a quiet thank you to the fruit that made it possible. You ask if she still eats pineapple. She laughs. "Of course," she says, "but never from a can." The pineapple has worn many crowns, but none stranger than the one it wears in the modern digital age. Now you're sitting in a coffee shop with pineapple motifs on the wallpaper. A barista in a pineapple-patterned apron pulls an espresso shot while humming a retro pop song. On the counter, a glass dome protects a single slice of pineapple upside-down cake. Ironic, artisanal, and $7. You take a sip of your pineapple cold brew. It's not bad. Pull out your phone. Open Instagram. Type in hashtag pineapple. It's a jungle. Pineapple-shaped pool floats. Pineapple cocktails served in hollowed fruit. Pineapple phone cases, pajamas, dog sweaters, yoga mats. Influencers pose in matching pineapple swimsuits beside infinity pools in Bali. A baby wearing a crocheted pineapple hat reaches for a smoothie bowl garnished with star fruit and ambition. You smile. The pineapple has officially made it to meme status. But here's the twist. Beneath the sugary surface of emojis and Etsy prints, the pineapple is also becoming a quiet symbol of sustainability. You scroll to a post about Pinatex, an innovative textile made from pineapple leaf fibers, developed as a cruelty-free leather alternative. The caption reads, "We're fruit, not animals." The shoes look sleek. The bag, minimalist and biodegradable. It's full circle, back to the old piña cloth, now reborn in a high-tech context. You walk through a design studio in Barcelona, where young artists test dyes made from pineapple skins. Across the globe, engineers are experimenting with pineapple waste to make biofuels, bioplastics, and even bacterial cellulose for medical uses. Turns out, there's still a lot of untapped magic in this spiny fruit. Historians still argue whether the modern pineapple boom is a celebration of culture or just another wave of performative consumption. But the new generation? They're trying. They're learning. They're asking, where did this come from? Who grew it? How can we waste less? You visit a pop-up shop in Tokyo offering only ugly fruit. Misshapen pineapples, bruised papayas, curved cucumbers. The pineapple at the front is more squat than majestic, but its crown is still upright, defiant. A handwritten sign reads, "Still sweet, just not symmetrical." The cashier hands you a pineapple cookie shaped like a cat. You take a bite. It crumbles like nostalgia. Now you're in a quiet Brooklyn apartment where someone has made an entire zine about pineapples. Pages of drawings, poems, essays, collages. One titled, The Fruit That Waited for You. Another is just a pencil sketch of a pineapple surrounded by tiny question marks. You flip to the back. The author writes, "This isn't about the fruit. It's about what the fruit holds. Heat, time, sweetness, distance, effort, welcome." It makes you pause. Because for all the centuries of movement, manipulation, and marketing, the pineapple remains approachable. Funny even. A fruit that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's become a kind of everyman's heirloom. We've made it ours, over and over again, and it keeps saying, sure, why not? You set down your phone and look up. Outside, the world moves fast. Drones buzz. Billboards flash. Notifications ping. But the pineapple, it still grows slowly, leaf by leaf, month by month, quietly preparing to offer sweetness, just once, and only after a long wait. You imagine one now, ripening somewhere far away, in soil both ancient and exhausted, sun warming its skin, rain whispering against its spines. No likes, no hashtags, just being. The future of the pineapple isn't entirely certain. Will it remain a star of fruit bowls and fancy brunches? Will it power new industries? Or will it retreat into nostalgia, retro wallpaper, and Jell-O memories? You don't know, but you do know this. The pineapple has lasted because it adapts, without forgetting where it came from. And maybe that's what we're all trying to do. It's nearly midnight now. You find yourself walking slowly through a garden at the edge of time. A strange one, where history and imagination seem to grow side by side. The path is soft beneath your feet. The air carries a blend of scents, warm sugar, cool soil, the faint tang of fermenting fruit. All around you, pineapples grow in various stages, some tiny and green, peeking from between their leaves, others fat and golden, their crowns reaching up like tired royalty. This place isn't real exactly, but it isn't fake either. It's an orchard built from memory, myth, and everything the pineapple has meant across centuries. To your left, a gardener from 18th century Scotland tends a coal-fired hothouse, humming to himself and adjusting the steam valves. To your right, a woman in Ghana delicately peels a sugarloaf pineapple, letting the juice run into a bowl for jam. You nod to each other. You keep walking. A Hawaiian queen steps barefoot into the path, her royal robes edged in piña cloth. She nods once and vanishes between the leaves. Further on, an exhausted dole worker in 1930s Oahu sits beneath a palm, eating the core of a pineapple he didn't pick for himself. You sit beside him in silence, then rise again. The garden shifts. Now, you're at a backyard barbecue in 1950s America, where someone's just grilled pineapple rings and placed them gently over hamburger patties. You catch the scent, smoke, caramel, ketchup, and you smile. They wave. You wave back. You walk farther still, past TikTokers filming their pineapple upside-down oat bowls, past conquistadors bartering for jungle-grown fruit, past children in the Philippines weaving thread from pineapple leaves without quite realizing their handling history. And through it all, the pineapple remains. One fruit, many stories, always waiting, always traveling, always transforming. You reach a small wooden bench at the garden center and sit. The air is warm. A pineapple grows beside you, slowly, quietly, without fanfare. You can almost hear it, the creak of its crown unfolding, the hush of sweetness gathering deep in its core. It will take time, but it will get there, and so will you. Now, slow your breath. Let the scent of that imagined pineapple drift toward you, warm golden, like late afternoon sun on a quiet windowsill. You've walked through centuries tonight, through steam-filled greenhouses and dusty roads, candlelit banquets and sun-baked fields, through sweetness, silliness, scarcity, and abundance. You've seen how one spiny little fruit traveled farther than most humans ever did, across oceans, through empires, over grocery store scanners, and into emoji keyboards. But for now, there's nowhere else to go. Just rest here, in this timeless garden. Let the history fall quiet behind you. Let the pineapple stay golden in your mind, cool and perfect, waiting patiently on the table of your dreams. You don't need to remember every date, every detail, every name. The stories have already taken root, and as you drift gently towards sleep, imagine this, that somewhere in the dark, under stars older than any ship or factory or crown, a pineapple is ripening, slowly, sweetly, just for you. Good night.